Hi guys, my name is Kate and welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to be reading chapter 17 of the book Charlotte's Web. You may have read it before or seen the movie. And it's called Uncle. So before we start, I want to explain that I'm doing this for school. So I've read through most of the book. But I'll just give you a quick summary and you can buy the book if you want to read more. And maybe I'll do other videos of the other chapters. I don't know. But we'll figure that out later. But so basically the story of Charlotte's Web, so far, I haven't read the whole thing yet. But it's basically, so this girl, Fern, adopts a pig. And then the pig gets too big and it goes to her aunt and uncle, Mr. and Mrs. Zuckerman's, because they have a farm, and his name is the pig's name is Wilbur, and he goes there to live there, and then he meets all these people like an old sheep, a lamb, a rat Templeton, and all these other animals, a goose, but the main character in this story is Charlotte. So Charlotte is a spider. And she is really nice. Her name is Charlotte, as you may know because of the title. And yeah, she's really nice and she's involved in a lot of the chapters. And then it goes back to, and Fern, the little girl, has a big brother, Avery. And, sometimes it goes back and forth with talks with her parents and their parents and then and so and then in the previous chapter there's is like they go to the fair, and this pig, the pig Wilbur, Charlotte, the Zuckermans want to kill him for Christmas because he's a pig, and so they like ham for Christmas or turkey or those things, but not turkey, but so and they will kill him. So Charlotte is putting words in her web like terrific and those things, and so it makes them think that like the first one was some pig, and it makes them not want to kill him. And it's working. And yeah, and so they're like, he's gonna go to the fair. Mr. Zuckerman wants the pig to go to the fair. And so it basically pauses the last the previous chapter after they get in the truck and they're driving to the fair. So that's what we're gonna read about in Uncle. Okay, and as you know, if you have seen my channel before or watched it, you know that I will always show you the pictures after I read each page. But, look at this. There's no picture on this page. So trust me, if there's no picture, I'm not going to show anything. But I will show if there's pictures, trust me. So, yeah, let's go. When they pulled into the fairgrounds, when they pull in, sorry, I forgot to mention this, it's Fern, Avery, Mr. and Mrs. Arable, and the Zuckermans, and Wilbur. And there's two secret travelers that came in the crate with Wilbur, Charlotte the spider and Templeton the rat. And you'll figure out what happens. Okay, and if there's any interruptions with my dog, please don't judge. Okay. When they pulled into the fairgrounds, they could hear music and see the Ferris wheel turning in the sky. They could smell the dust of the racetrack where the sprinkling cart had moistened it, and they could smell hamburgers frying and see balloons aloft. They could hear sheep blatting in their pens. An enormous voice over the loudspeaker said, "Attention, please! Will the owner of a Pontiac car, license number H2439, please move your car away from the fireworks shed?" "Can I have some money?" asked Fern. "Can I too?" asked Avery. "I'm going to win a doll by spinning a wheel, and it will stop at the right number," said Fern. "I'm going to steer a jet plane and make it bump into another one. Can I have a balloon? Asked Fern. Can I have a frozen custard and a cheeseburger and some raspberry soda pop? Asked Avery. You children be quiet till we get the pig unloaded, said Mrs. Arable. Let's let the children go off by themselves, suggested Mr. Arable. The fair only comes once a year. Mr. Arable gave Fern 2 quarters and 2 dimes. He gave Avery 5 dimes and 4 nickels. Now run along, he said, and remember, the money has to last all day. Don't spend it all the first few minutes. And be back here at the truck at noontime so we can have lunch together. And don't eat a lot of stuff that's going to make you sick to your stomachs. And if you go in those swings, said Mrs. Arable, you hang on tight. You hang on very tight. Hear me? And don't get lost, said Mrs. Zuckerman. And don't get dirty. Hang on, sorry. My computer screen is like almost shutting down, so I just gotta stop it every once in a while. And don't get dirty. Don't get overheated, said their mother. Watch out for pickpockets, cautioned their father. And don't cross the racetrack when the horses are coming, cried Mrs. Zuckerman. The children grabbed each other by the hand and danced off in the direction of the merry-go-round, towards the wonderful music and wonderful adventure and wonderful excitement, into the wonderful midway where there would be no parents to guard them and guide them, and where they could be happy and free to do as they pleased. Mrs. Arable stood quietly and watched them go. Then she sighed. Then she blew her nose. Do you really think it's all right? She asked. Well, they've got to grow up sometime, said Mr. Arable. And a fair is a good place to start, I guess. While Wilbur was being unloaded and taken out of his crate into his new pig pen, crowds gathered to watch. They stared at the sign, Zuckerman's famous pig. Wilbur stared back and tried to look extra good. He was pleased with his new home. The pen was grassy, and it was shaded from the sun by a shed roof. Charlotte was watching her chance, scrambled out of the crate and climbed a post to the underside of the roof. Nobody noticed her. Templeton, not wishing to come out in broad daylight, stayed quietly under the straw at the bottom of the crate. Mr. Zuckerman poured some skim milk into Wilbur's trough, pitched clean straw into his pen, and then took Mrs. Zuckerman and the Arables. And then he and Mrs. Zuckerman and the Arables walked away toward the cattle barn to look at the purebred cows and to see the sights. Mr. Zuckerman particularly wanted to look at tractors. Mrs. Zuckerman wanted to see a deep freeze. Lurvy wandered off by himself, hopping to meet friends and have some fun on the midway. And I didn't mention this, Lurvy is like the Zuckerman's like helper, like he will help them with their farm and those things. So yeah, and here's a picture. There's Fern and there's Avery, and they're walking towards the merry-go-round. Here's the merry-go-round, and here's the Ferris wheel, and it looks like those are the swings that Fern, I think Fern's a little scared about. I would bet they both are, but let's continue. As soon as the people were gone, Charlotte spoke to Wilbur. It's a good thing you can't see what I see, she said. What do you see? Asked Wilbur. There's a pig in the next pen, and he's enormous. I'm afraid he's much bigger than you are. Maybe he's older than I am, and has had more time to grow, suggested Wilbur. Tears began to come to his eyes. I'll drop down and have a closer look, Charlotte said. Then she crawled along a beam till she was directly over the next pen. She let herself down on a drag line until she hung in the air just in front of the big pig's snout. May I have your name? She asked politely. The pig stared at her. No name, he said in a big, hearty voice. Just call me Uncle." "Very well, Uncle," replied Charlotte. "What is the date of your birth?" "Are you a spring pig?" "Sure I am a spring pig," replied Uncle. "What did you think I was? A spring chicken?" "Ha ha, that's a good one, sister?" "Madly funny," said Charlotte. "I've heard funnier ones, though. Glad to have met you, and now I must be going." She ascended slowly and returned to Wilbur's pen. "He claims he's a spring pig," reported Charlotte, "and perhaps he is. One thing is certain, he has a most unattractive personality. He is too familiar, too noisy, and he cracks weak jokes. He's also not anywhere near as clean as you are, nor as pleasant. I took quite a dislike to him in our brief interview. He's going to be a hard pig to beat, though, Wilbur, on account of his size and weight. But with me helping you, it can be done." "When are you going to spin a web?" asked Wilbur. "This afternoon, late, if I'm not too tired," said Charlotte. Before I turn the page, here's Uncle, and there's Charlotte taking a look at him. "The least thing tries me these days. I don't seem to have the energy I once had. My age, I guess." Wilbur looked at his friend. She looked rather swollen and seemed listless. "I'm awfully sorry to hear that you're feeling poorly, Charlotte," he said. "Perhaps if you spin a web and catch a couple of flies, you'll feel better." "Perhaps," she said wearily, "but I feel like the end of a long day." Clinging upside down to the ceiling, she settled down for a nap, leaving Wilbur very much worried. All morning, people wandered past Wilbur's pen. Dozens and dozens of strangers stopped to stare at him and admire his silky white coat, his curly tail, his kind and radiant expression. Then they would move on to the next pen where the bigger pig lay. Wilbur heard several people making favorable remarks about Uncle's great size. He couldn't help overhearing these remarks, and he couldn't help worrying. And now, with Charlotte not feeling well, he thought, "Oh dear." All morning, Templeton slept quietly under the straw. The day grew fiercely hot. At noon, the Zuckermans and the Arables returned to the pig pen. Then, a few minutes later, Fern and Avery showed up. Fern had a monkey doll in her arms and was eating Cracker Jack. Avery had a balloon tied to his ear and was chewing a candied apple. The children were hot and dirty. "Isn't it hot?" said Mrs. Zuckerman. "It's terribly hot," said Mrs. Arable, fanning herself with an advertisement of a deep freeze. One by one, they climbed into the truck and opened lunch boxes. The sun beat down on everything. Nobody seemed hungry. "When are the judges going to decide about Wilbur?" asked Mrs. Zuckerman. "Not till tomorrow," said Mr. Zuckerman. Lurvy appeared, carrying an Indian blanket that he had won. "That's just what we need," said Avery. "A blanket." "Of course it is," replied Lurvy, and he spread the blanket across the sideboards of the truck so it was like a little tent. The children sat in the shade under the blanket and felt better. After lunch, they stretched out and fell asleep. And that is the end of today's chapter. The next chapter, if you're wondering, is The Cool of the Evening. And if you want to read the first, the first 16 chapters, you can buy the book. I don't know where because my mom got it and ordered it, but yeah, I know you can buy the book, whether that's at a store or online. Probably off Amazon would be your best choice, but so this book is a really good book, and I recommend that you read all of it, and then after that watch the movie. But my teacher recommended this, and I do too. Probably read the book before you watch the movie, because if you read, books are better than movies, and if you read the book first, you'll kind of have an idea in your head of what's happening in the movie. So that's just what I would recommend. You can do whatever you want, but so yeah, so thank you so much for watching this video, and subscribe to my channel for more. Goodbye.